Good afternoon and welcome to this week's episode of Beyond the Lights with Dr. Tim Moore. Today we'll be discussing how student athletes feel about spectators and the role of spectators in the contest. And then, like I said, in recent times we've heard a lot of stories about spectator violence and how far the spectators go. Today we're going to have our student athletes come back and discuss how they feel about sports violence. Thank you and enjoy.
Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Lights. I'm your host, Ian Groom, and I am accompanied by...
My name is Jared Powell.
I'm Janae Lyles.
And I'm Kyle Towns.
So in this episode of Beyond the Lights, we were talking about spectators in sports and really what their role is and really how that affects the actual sports team, both in and off the court. So to begin, our first question we will start with are, what are spectators or fans to a sports team overall?
So a sports team overall, they're like, I would almost say like the spark. I would say the team, the players themselves is like the fuel and the heart, like the engine. I think the fans are just that little spark, because at the end of the day, they're not on the field playing.
Yeah.
They're not doing the hard work. They're just being the, what do you call it, your couch coaches at home. So I think they're just that little spark that sometimes get you over the edge when you need it.
I completely agree. I would say that my perspective would be spectators to be like the support system of a program or organization. I find that a lot of teams that have a heavy support system, whether it be the college spectators or even professionally, like the teams and organizations typically hold a pretty solid program. So that's my take on it, honestly.
I feel like spectators are like the backbone of a lot of teams. Well, from like an economic standpoint, they kind of sell to the fans, so that they're a good revenue generator. But at the same time, they also like give that support. So you see like teams like the Jets or Browns, who like historically kind of been bad. Their fans are still like loyal and still support them, which I feel like is a lot of the reasons why every year they keep coming out there and trying to perform, even though like with a history of like losing.
I think it's just like that possibility of maybe this is a year.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I definitely feel what you're saying, Q. Like, I was thinking that when you look at it from a breakdown of like professional and non-professional is you find that teams that have like, or even schools in general that have a good support system from their fan base, they oftentimes can sell that to the people that they're recruiting. Like, hey, we have a good fan base. Like, we're here to support you. We have people that love our program. And then from the aspect of like professional sports, you have a player that has been in the league for a good minute, and then like when their time to retire and settle down, a lot of times they'll stay with the team they're with because they built a rapport with those fans and spectators and stuff like that. So they feel like they not owe them a loyalty, but they feel like loyal since their fans are loyal to them throughout their
You think
career.
the fans play a different role from like collegiately through professionally? Like, you think like the role, the level of importance is different based on the levels?
I feel like college and professional aren't as much different compared to like high school and college, because like college and professional, they're both selling to fans and they're both trying to sell tickets, and both college and professional fans are the ones that generate the revenue. But like in high school, like tickets like $3, like they're not really making a lot of money. So like I feel like it's different from like high school to college and professional, or college to professional, kind of close together.
And I definitely think sometimes, depending on what type of high school you go to, there can be kind of like that actual similarity between high school and college. If you go to a more sports high school where it's really like they have those rivalries ingrained in them, and then they do sometimes they can generate money, but it all just depends on the actual environment you're in, like how the sports atmosphere is. But kind of jumping back to what you were saying earlier about the whole idea of the actual spark. So with that, when looking at games with spectators from an in-game perspective, how do you all feel like that actual spark affects a team, or what does that spark really do for a team?
I can start, and I would say that it definitely brings energy into like wherever you're at on the field, on the court. And I noticed that even like with our Hampton games, that the more advertised games that draw in a lot of like a heavier crowd, the games tend to be a lot closer. Like I think it might have been the Howard versus Hampton basketball game or a different game last year, but it was a great turnout. The energy was high, and I think they went to overtime and they hit a buzzer beater. So it's just like I feel like the fans bring the energy, like, and the players feed off of that energy, you know.
I definitely agree. I feel like fans help like turn the team up. Like I know I can't think of the team off bat, but I want to say it's the Seahawks, but their stadium gets so loud for like opposing teams because of their fans that like it's almost impossible to hear. And just like having that atmosphere, like all your fans rallying together, I know that turns the team up and makes someone up out there.
That's a good point. I think you know how I say like when you have like a pet, like a dog, it's like they can sense your energy. Kind of like the same way. It's like, especially when you're like playing on the field, at times, sometimes you zone out. You don't hear the fans, but when your dog tired and like you're like, look, this might be the last play of the game, and they crowd gets the roaring, it's like that sense of here we go. It's bigger than me.
100%. And so with that, in terms of like as you were saying, like one of y'all said, I'm not sure what y'all said, 12 man. So with that, so do y'all really feel like that really can take a hold of an actual team and really push them over the edge to be able to accomplish something? Like say, if you take like, and obviously they didn't have fans helping the situation, but the actual Miami Heat back in the actual bubble, no one expected them to be able to go to the finals like against the Lakers, but they were able to supersede expectations, be able to get themselves and put themselves to play at a level, specifically Jimmy Butler to do so. So obviously in that situation there wasn't fans, but do you feel like fans have that effect where they can take a, let's say, not mediocre, but a decent team and put them on the same level as being able to play against like 2 top 10 players in the actual league?
Yeah. And as soon as like Daniel Snyder announced that he was selling the team, the fan morale went through the roof. And since then, I think they've been on like a 6 out of 7 win.
Yeah, they've been winning.
So like, definitely.
Yeah. Thank God they've been winning too.
For what?
Definitely true. I feel like they can. Like I know that's like last weekend, LSU was playing Texas A&M. LSU was number 5 team, and Texas A&M, it was at the Texas A&M Stadium. They were like 3-4 for the season. So they rallied back and just like second half came out there and fans were cheering them on and they actually upset it, LSU.
Yeah.
And this was a team that was having like the worst season. Like their fans were leaving the games, no one was coming. But when their fans came to the games and turned them up, like you see, it was like a totally different team out there.
And then obviously, as we talked about, spectators can be a really great thing for a team, but at the same time, sometimes it can go in that actual other direction. And we've seen instances where I think it was KD got hit with stuff as like he was leaving the actual court, and we've seen a lot of instances where players have gotten like harassed by fans, or how people talk about the actual Celtics and say like Draymond Green was on a podcast talking about how like they were saying racial slurs to him while he was playing the actual finals. Yeah. So off of that, so what do you think? What is too far when it comes to what spectators can do at an actual sporting event?
For me, it's in all aspects definitely like the verbal abuse. Like there's definitely ways like that you can express how you're feeling without being disrespectful, being demeaning in your words, saying anything racial or offending, and then like screaming threats on the court, or like you know, say like after like a tough loss or somebody didn't do well. Now that social media is so heavily like incorporated in like the sports industry, like you have to think about when they're not on the court, because a lot of people like to get bold once you're not face to face with them. So you got to think about all the hate that they also receive along with the love. And I feel like it's kind of hard to manage the social media aspect, because like there's so much access to the athletes and stuff, but overall like I just feel as though that, you know, in a in-house setting you definitely have to crack down on the aspect of people taking it too far with their words.
I definitely feel, I know whenever you go on Twitter and like I know not Anthony Edwards, Zion Williams was talking about how like he didn't want to tell the announcer his Thanksgiving meal because he knew the fans were about to bash him, and like just seeing how man's not even comfortable enough to say what he ate because of ridicule from like fans. I feel like a lot of times fans look at like those athletes as being like robots almost, you know, like they forget they're human, they got emotions too. So I definitely feel like sometimes it could be too far. Like I remember LeBron one time, he had some fans telling that they wanted Bronny and them dead. Like,
That's crazy.
For no reason.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's just too far because it's just a game at the end of the day. Like, you talk about a man's family.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
I think you definitely go too far. I mean, I think once a fan purchases a ticket and pours their energy into the game, into a team, they got a certain level of, okay, they're able to ridicule or
Entitlement.
yeah. But I think they should be allowed to give their opinion sometimes. Once it goes too far, should be a respect level. Once you cross that boundary, especially at the game, like you said, throwing out threats and whatever, then you're trying to get escorted out. Like, because like I said, in the street, that man's 6'5", whatever. You're not gonna say nothing to him like that. You're crazy. Yeah.
And I think that as we said, like it comes down to like the line is like once it goes like obviously you can say like boo to stand third,
Right.
but once it gets personal with that person or actually racial, that's when you cross that line.
For sure.
And so, what you all personally as a player, how do you all handle those type of situations if you've come into a situation similar to that?
I mean, it's probably different for like football than like track, but I know like I didn't have people like say disrespectful.
I know y'all get crazy. I've read meet people.
So you just kind of gotta like block it out. Like I will say like sometimes I want to like go back and forth.
Yeah.
Like track's more individual, so it's kind of like, oh, you're only talking about me. You're not talking about the whole team. Like you're talking about me. So I know I've been in situations, but you just kind of gotta like remember like, hey, like they wish they could be out here. They want to do what you could do. It's just a blessing to be out here.
So when you say those situations, so like what was like an example?
Example. So one time I was at a track meet and it was like this guy who was like really fast and like he was like one of the top in like the country, but so was I. And like this guy came up to us and just was like, oh, you finna beat him, he's slow, like look at him, like type ordeal, like right in my face. I'm just like, wow, like, that's bold. Like, it's very bold, like just disrespectful, just kind of like trying to put me down to hype him up, and like we're literally like this close to each other.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, it's kind of disrespectful.
I remember back in 2019 we had played Liberty, and the way the stadium was set up was if our bleachers was here, the fans were right here and elevated. So anything they say, it's like they're talking down on us.
Yeah.
I remember like it was probably coming back out of halftime, and I'm standing on the sideline, and somebody behind me says, "Hey, pal, you think your mom still love you after this?" And not only that, like they looked up, they found her name, they found my dad's name, my birthday, her birthday. They were saying all type of crazy stuff. I'm thinking like, man, y'all really just dedicated to that's crazy.
No, you're good. I know for me, like you was saying, like I grew up with hard coaches. Even my dad, like he was my coach at one point, and he raised me to have tough skin because he was like, when you get to these higher levels, people are always gonna hate on you, and or have something negative to say about your play or how you carry yourself or the outcome of a game. And so, like now being at the college level, I don't really hear it. And a lot of people are like, how do you block it out? But it's just like something that's trained. Like I don't try to be like, oh, don't think about it. But it's like when you're in the zone, you're in the zone. And like it's crazy because the only person that I continuously hear to this day is my father. He could be like in the stands. He can be like on the side of the gate. Like I can hear him. And sometimes I have to tell him when I get back, I'm like, chill, you doing a lot. I don't want to hear that. And like I guess like one of my experiences, it was like some Spectator trash talk, but mine was more of the spectators on the bench. Like they wasn't in the game. We were at Campbell, and literally like I was up at bat and they were barking at me. They were like sit her down, like and they was talking trash. And I take things like offensive very seriously because I work hard at that. That's something that I can confidently say like that is like a dominant skill that I have. And they were talking trash and like the umpires weren't saying anything. And so I was like, okay. And me and the pitcher were going back and forth. Like I said, they were barking. They were just being mad disrespectful. And guess what I did? I hit that jump 300 feet. Cap. Wasn't 300 feet. But, you know, like I hit it over the fence. And if they didn't have a net up, I would have hit their scoreboard. And moral of the story, like I think I could have handled it a little better because when I hit the home run, I tossed my bat and I waved at the bench as I jogged by. And they gave me a warning for it, but at the end of the day, like,
worth it.
Yeah, to me it was. To me it was worth it because you're not gonna disrespect me in the craft, especially when we weren't given that same energy. The referees weren't standing up for me or anybody else on my team because there was other stuff that was being said throughout the game. So it's like, yeah, you're offended because I waved, but they're barking at me. They're saying crazy stuff. Even the fans are like getting into it as well. So yeah, like I'm sorry a little wave hurt y'all feelings, but look at that ball go over the fence for real.
I definitely think another aspect that goes into it is the idea of it being mostly white fans watching black athletes. And so with the example I give of that, so like I play lacrosse, which is a predominantly white sport. So when we're playing, so like for like high school, for example, so we're playing Gonzaga in national state championship semis, and so I'm out there. You don't hear them talking to the actual other white guys, like talking to the white guys like that. But then when I'm out there, it's N-word this, N-word that, N-word this. But there was no checking for them. Like and as you see in like first course, they don't really check. So, but the black athlete responds. So I messed up. So I ran up in the actual stands after I got an assist, and I was like, "F you, F you, F you." Yeah, it wasn't a good idea, and like I got in trouble for that. But why is it that the black athlete can't respond, but the spectator can say that? And they say that that's what you sign up for when you choose to play the game. But is that really what you sign up for?
No, it's not.
You sign up, yeah, go ahead.
Because at the end of the day, if you tried to be a week in our shoes, you wouldn't make it.
Right.
There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes, and a lot of people see, the gear, they see you on TV, they see the success. They also, they will always remember the failures more than the success. But it's at the end of the day, if you try to be here today, you wouldn't make it. And that's what I have to remind myself as every time.
I think like once you pick up that bat, putting cleats on, across it, whatever, you sign up for a certain level of criticism, constructive criticism. But once it goes past that, it's just like, why are you even talking?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think so. Like kind of rounding it up, because I know we're running low on time. So when it comes to spectators and violence, when do you all think is the most likely time for like the actual for the violence for spectators to go too far within like an actual sporting event?
Throwing objects. Like I was young when this happened, but like the malice and palace, that was like a prime example of like things gone too far. Because like you throwing stuff at people, you hitting like athletes, like they're grown men just like you. So like putting your hands on someone, talking about someone's family, or just like throwing stuff at people, I feel like those are all no go.
Yeah, and that always comes later on in the game. And I mean, I think that really when the tension is getting high later on in the game, that's when the tension's flaring, stuff like that will happen. Obviously not to that degree where they're brawling in the middle of the court, but I think that's when the tension starts to get higher.
Yeah, and I feel like two specific moments where I feel like you see a lot of spectator violence is rivalry games as well as postseason, because that's when that's when I feel like everybody's emotions are heightened, because you have to rapport with that other school like that's not too far from you, and you obviously like want to win. And then postseason, you also have that drive to want to win and go as far as you possibly can, and so that's why I feel like you have the most people that show up to the games, and the most time people are really like invested in those games.
Yeah, I definitely feel that, because I know this past weekend Oregon had played Oregon State, and one of the Oregon players, I think he hit a fan with somebody that was on the field, and then they had to escort him out because he was going to jump into the stands and fight the Oregon State fan. So you could just know like high emotional situations, and then the heckling. Like I know that could be a lot to deal with if you're not like used to it, or you not expecting that part of the game.
Yeah, and like that's why I think sometimes they shouldn't let the fans rush the field after the game. It's hard to stop, but like the Eagles, they got a jail under their stadium for situations like that because they needed it before. So that fan violence will get real.
I bet. I've seen it, man. It'd be crazy. Like, you think that they was out there playing? Yeah.
Well, that concludes this episode of Beyond the Lights. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you all next week.